people kept on telling me, you need to make a life documentary at some point about your journey, about your career, about your life. I've never talked about these certain moments in my career and in my life. So I knew I wanted to make it. I knew that I wanted to bring it out on the 10th year of my retirement. And who knew whether I could make that happen or not, but luckily we could. To look back at, my career and my life over the last 25 years, especially of my career, was actually really nice. Because I'm not a person that sits and reflects on, past achievements and things like that. So this whole process has been like an emotional roller coaster. Me getting out of London at that time and becoming a Manchester United player, in the north, surrounded by, unbelievable people, that for me, without doubt, helped me, have the success and have the career that I'd had. And having the discipline of Sir Alex Ferguson possibly was one of the biggest reasons why I was able to succeed. I hadn't actually watched it. And I hadn't actually watched, the interviews and what people said about me after. So that was actually probably the toughest part of the documentary, one of the toughest parts of the documentary to talk through. And it wasn't just stepping onto a football pitch, it was every time that I went out and in my car and people stopped me and spat at my window and, all of those things, and then walking into a restaurant knowing that everybody in there hates you. So I knew it was bad at the time, but going over that whole thing was quite a tough one. I was surrounded by obviously amazing teammates. Sir Alex Ferguson, Manchester United fans was the biggest probably reason I got through what I got through at that time on the pitch, because they were unbelievable to me. Family members, but then back then there wasn't anyone turning around to me and saying, "Are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? Let's talk about it." Because 25 years ago, if I'd have turned around to my dad and said, "Dad, I don't feel great," he'd have said, "Well, boy, just get on with it." So it was difficult, and I don't know how I got through it at times. But looking back on it, it makes me realise how tough it was and how difficult it was, and how much I kind of grew as a player and also as a person. My first contract was when I was 18 or 19 years old with Brill Cream. And that was something that, players weren't really doing at that time. And then obviously the tattoos, and then people start talking about the brand and things like that. But it happened very naturally. I then realised, okay, at some point I'm going to retire, and I'm going to want to keep busy because I like to work, I like to travel. So then we started planning for the future. And then obviously I had the opportunity to play in different countries, move to America, obviously have my own franchise and my own team, become an owner. So then once I finished playing, I knew that the moment I finished playing, I could then jump into the business. I don't regret anything in my career. Do I wish things hadn't happened? Absolutely. Do I wish 98 hadn't happened? Absolutely. But after a few years of thinking that was a really tough time, I then started thinking, well, it must have happened for a reason. And then at the end of my career, I think, well, that's why it happened. It made me stronger as a person, as a player, as a human being, as a father, as a husband. And if that hadn't have happened, maybe I wouldn't have had the career that I had.